It is true, the Illuminati, or by whatever name you want to call them, did indeed design our two very different ounce measures. They used the same secret geometry that they used to design literally all of humanity's systems of weights and measures, those from ancient times to present day. Introducing the viewers to some of the abundant evidence for this assertion is the purpose of this video. Let's be clear about this from the start. Historians don't have any definitive explanation anywhere why the troy ounce weighs 480 grains and the Avoirdupois ounce 437 and 1/2 grains. This 437.5 grain Avoirdupois ounce is our common marketplace ounce. It's what we unthinkingly use every day at the supermarket or when we step on a scale to weigh ourselves in pounds, with the pound equal to 7,000 grains. The troy ounce, on the other hand, is used almost exclusively for gold, silver, lead, and gunpowder, and sometimes precious gemstones and pharmaceuticals. Historically, these two very different ounce measures have no known relationship to one another. Allegedly, these weights were arrived at by thoroughly arbitrary and subjective processes, such as feeling like the right amount, or by decree of some king, for who knows what reason. The following evidence should dispel any such notion. There are many ways to model these two ounces. For example, two cubes of the same substance, or two spheres of, say, gold or of silver. These are very straightforward models, but not very revealing as to answering the question, why these quantities became the dominant ounce measures at a time in European history when there were almost as many different ounces as there were different countries. For some reason, these two survived and the other ones fell out of use and faded into the fog of history. Perhaps these following models are the answer to this question. These two columns are comprised of identical cubes. They perfectly model the 2 ounces. The troy ounce on the left contains 1,152 cubes, like the cube at the base of the Avoirdupois ounce. If the cubes are all of the same substance, then the weight of the columns is proportional to the number of their cubes. 1,050 divided by 1,152 is equal to 437.5 divided by 480. Thus, as we can see, the 2 ounces can be perfectly modeled. We can even see that they share a common core of 1,008 white cubes in a 6 by 7 by 24 column, equal to 420 grains, which I will have more to say about in a future video. Now you can see that the only difference between the 2 ounces is which face of the common core gets an additional layer of cubes, which are highlighted in red. Until 1588, the Avoirdupois ounce in England contained 437 grains, making their pound weigh 6,992 grains. The modeling in this image will not work without the 8 additional grains. Point of fact, if 1,050 cubes model 437.5 grains, then each cube in this image represents 0.41666 grain, less than half a grain. We'd have to remove one whole cube and a small chunk of another to make this model weigh 437 grains, but then it wouldn't be a perfect model. And that's why someone advised the government in 1588 that their ounce needed another half grain. In this next image, we see a sphere within a cylinder in a red tetrahedron resting on top. These objects are commensurate in that the diameter of the sphere is also the height and width of the cylinder, and the three vertices of the tetrahedron's base perfectly aligns with the cylinder's circumference. The role of the sphere in this image is to give a visual proportioning to the cylinder. I should also point out that a given volume packaged as a sphere has the least surface area possible when compared to that volume in any other form. In the same way, given the range of possible cylinder proportions, this cylinder uses the least surface area to encompass any given volume in the form of a cylinder. Now the rest is easy. If the cylinder is a solid chunk of something and weighs 1 avoirdupois ounce, 437.5 grains, and then the red tetrahedron of the same substance is set atop the cylinder, their combined weight is 437.5 grains plus 42.639 ounce grains, which equals 480.139 grains, or 1 troy ounce, perfectly modeled to 99.97%. Even the 33rd degree Masons, in all probability, don't know what you're about to see and hear. In this illustration, we see first and foremost a sphere atop a square. This square represents the sphere's surface area, and the edge length of this square is the square root of its surface. Now divide this square's edge into 32 parts. Then construct another square with its edge measuring 33 of these parts. This square becomes the surface of another, slightly larger sphere. How much larger? Well, let's see. 32 units times 32 units as a sphere's surface area creates a volume of 3081.22. And 33 units times 33 units as a sphere's surface creates a volume of 3379.21. When we compare these two volumes, we find that they relate the same way as the 2 ounces, with a modeling accuracy of nearly 100%. We can also transform the volume of a sphere into a cube. Divide the edge of this cube into 32 units, and then construct another cube with 33 of those same units per edge. When filled with the same substance, their weights will relate as the avoirdupois ounce to a troy ounce. In fact, any two identical geometric forms having the square root of their surface areas in a 32 to 33 ratio will produce the same ratio between their volumes as do the two different ounce measures. To find out more, go to www.kasperskyart.com, where you can read, free of charge, 2 of my 3 books in their entirety, The Geometry of Money and excerpts and an introduction to the geometry of form. America's 1792 Coinage Act was my doorway leading into the Illuminati's occult design for one global system of weights and measures. The geometry of money proves that all of our measures are based on one simple geometry purposely hidden from the people of this earth for over 2,000 years. Finally, within this book, their creations have been exposed. Without the many decades of research leading up to excerpts from some thoughts on universe, an introduction to the geometry of form, the geometry of money would not have been possible. This book lays out the foundations of a geometry little known and never taught. And if any body of research can truly be called forbidden knowledge, then the 28 detailed images within the 100 pages of my book by that name surely must be included somewhere at the top of that list. For anyone will clearly see that there exists in the shadows a group of individuals manipulating the affairs of mankind.